Looks like we are live here. Thank you everyone for joining another episode of the OpenJS Foundation's Cross-Project Council meeting. Today is the 24th of March in the year 2020, in the era of coronavirus. Thank you for joining. Do we have any announcements that we want to make before we get into the agenda?
I have a few.
Great.
So the first announcement are about upcoming meetings. We do have a summit, a collab summit planning meeting today, which begins immediately after this one on a different Zoom call. You can get the link to that either by going to the /summit repository and looking at the issue for today's meeting, or of course by subscribing to the Foundation calendar, which also includes that information. Then immediately after that at 2 p.m. Eastern, and I apologize, I don't remember the UTC time for that at the moment, is the Standards Working Group meeting, and that information is also in the issue on the /standards repo, and again in the calendar. So those are two upcoming meetings this week for the Foundation. I also wanted to share that we added a new integration to the Slack channel, which I'm excited for us to test out. It's called ThanksBot, and it's a way to leave your colleagues in the Foundation a note of appreciation and share that with everyone on a regular basis. So give that a try if you don't mind, and let me know what you think. And then last but definitely not least, Rachel had shared this last week, but I'll say it again. We have a call for different kinds of content for the OpenJS Foundation blog and social. If your project has releases or technical content, or really anything newsworthy, we want to be able to support the reach of that content. So please do share it in our PR marketing channel on Slack so that we can help you get the word out. And I think that is it at the moment for announcements. I'm sure I will think more later.
This is Robin. I'll give a quick update on OpenJS World. We posted a blog last Tuesday talking about how we're monitoring the situation and working with our partners at the Linux Foundation and the other events that are co-hosting. So conversations are going on with the venues on that. At the same time, we're narrowing down choices for a virtual platform. So we will likely move forward with a virtual event, assuming that things don't come together in Austin. And I just have to say that the program committee is doing an amazing job. You all did an amazing job submitting CFPs. We have some great folks interested in keynotes. So that's on track. So regardless of how and when we go with the event, we're going to have some pretty amazing content, just lots of great stuff to choose from. And thanks to everyone and all the project reps and participating in that program committee.
Great, thank you. I am looking at the calendar. I have an OpenJS Open Office Hours this Thursday that I'll highlight, and I'm meeting with friend of mine from ESLint, Kai, later today to discuss having ESLint at the Open Office Hours. So that's Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And then I don't know if anyone else wants to give any information on this, but I also see a board meeting, it's a public session on Friday. Is that right?
That's correct.
Great. Anything else? All right, cool. So just checking back here, going over to the agenda. It looks like the first item is the, oh, those are the announcements. Where are we here? The first item is from the Summit repo, and this issue is around travel fund questions, which, as I mentioned earlier, Divi created a PR in the cross-project council repo to try and integrate those comments and requirements, I guess you'd say, into the documentation. There's been, you know, some commentary here that I think we need to just kind of go through and clean up, and yeah, some like formatting and stuff we need to review. But it looks like this is almost ready to go. So if anybody has any time and can give it one more once over, great. Otherwise, I think we can move forward on it. Anybody have anything more to add there, or comments, questions?
Just thank you, Divi.
Yeah,
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Cool. So moving on, the next issue in the agenda is the nomination sought for 2020-2021 voting CPC membership. The folks who are nominating or self-nominating are sending emails to me. I've got a few of them in my inbox. When does this wrap up in terms of nominations and such?
Today is the last
okay.
day.
Okay, great. So if you are nominating or self-nominating, do so today, and we'll move on from there. Does anybody have anything else to add here, or comments, questions?
Should we expect you to post the names to the issue at what time?
Yeah, and then we'll move on from there to voting.
I think it's also worth mentioning. Go ahead.
Was that Emily?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Question was, what time?
Oh, what time am I going to post that? What time should I post it?
Technically, you would need to post it, you know, at midnight, I suppose, on tonight. But I would say maybe if you did it tomorrow morning, like by 9 a.m. Eastern, that would be sufficient.
Okay.
I have a quick question. This is Dylan from Dojo, and we Dojo have been very inactive in terms of CPC membership. So I feel a bit reluctant to nominate anyone from our project because we've only been to a few meetings each just because of life and other craziness in the past year. So I'm wondering if that's okay, or if you want us to still nominate people, accepting that we've been less active than we'd like to be, and that might change, or what you would recommend there.
Can you remind us which level Dojo is at?
What
right?
is it? Impact,
You're at
or?
impact.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I guess I'd wonder if that still makes sense. Like, as impacts, you know, given the level of activity or whatever is, I mean, that would be the first question, right?
Yeah, I mean, the project itself is very active in terms of development. We just haven't done a lot with regards to CPC. So just wondering what you think there.
So is there anyone in the project that you think would have an interest in this sort of work that you could reach out to? Certainly folks on the CPC would be happy to mentor and get them ramped up or anything like that.
I'll look and ask. I'm just not sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. No, I mean, I get it. You know, people are busy, have other things going on. But if there's an opportunity for someone else within the project, that could be good.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks for bringing that up.
Thanks.
That does say, the governance does say that each impact project may nominate up to 2 members. So I think that's written as a may, but don't have to.
Yeah, I didn't want to just submit people and then have it be the same situation where we're fairly inactive. The truth is we're just fairly heads down on Dojo itself. And I expected to have more time over the past year, but I had a lot of personal stuff come up. So I expect that I can be more active, but I also don't want to nominate myself after having made it to maybe 4 or 5 meetings over the past 12 months. So just kind of wondering, if intent is okay, or if we should really just not nominate people because we were so inactive over the past year, and just wanting to be fair to everyone else and not, hold back quorum and things like that if we've not done our share.
So I guess like my personal opinion here, and I speak as like not a voting member, but I think the last year, at least in my impression, has shown that like the level of projects between growth and impact, or as at large has, in my personal opinion, and other projects are on the call, if you disagree, chime in, but it doesn't seem like it's affected people's ability to do the things that they want to do or get the support from the foundation that they'd like to get. And I don't believe also like with the way that we've set up these meetings that like it's not accessible to folks who want to participate. So to me, like almost the only reason to be an impact project at this point, and feel free to, if anyone disagrees, is because you are like saying that you will show up and participate in these meetings and help with the running of the foundation. So in my personal opinion, Dylan, if you all are super heads down and just don't have time to focus on foundation-wide governance, I do think that moving to at large would make sense to me. And I personally, although I'm not a voting member, would support y'all moving back to impact at any point if you all find that you have the bandwidth or interest to be involved more in the CPC and the foundation governance.
And kind of leveraging the foundation is the other aspect of the impact projects, right?
But I guess what I'm trying to say there, Michael, is that I think that we said that in theory, but in practice we haven't really seen that in the last year, that like the project level is affecting the ability to access foundation resources. Jory has their hand up though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the things that this touches on for me is a program that we had intended to be able to run by now, which is the sort of like annual review and checking in with each of our projects and saying, hey, is this, level of foundation support for your given, place in your open source product lifecycle, essentially, does this match, or do you need to shift in some way? And doing that on a regular basis kind of helps reinforce the fact that like it's fluid and changes because people's bandwidth changes and stuff. And so I feel like this is also just a reminder that we need to build that muscle.
I think based on that, Jory, it would really be awesome if you and I could have, if it's you that does that on your side, or the foundation side, if we could have that call pretty soon and just talk through where we're at, and then maybe we can decide based on that discussion.
Yeah, I'm totally happy to follow up with you, Dylan, and actually any project that may be evaluating whether they're at where they need to be stage-wise. So, and we can also simultaneously work on that review process with the CPC. And maybe that's an action we should do is file an issue to start on that with the CPC.
I think that would make sense, yeah.
And this is Robin. I just want to reinforce that we do have the bandwidth to support our projects in a very robust way. So would really love your all's continued participation and involvement in the foundation. And we are here to help you grow. So no worries there.
Awesome, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Also to note, I don't think you necessarily need to make any decision on the right level that you think you should have in the foundation like right away. As in, you can actively not nominate anyone now and then later decide that, yeah, indeed, you don't have, that it doesn't feel right that you continue as an impact project, and then make a proposal for a change.
Yeah, I don't think I'd agree. Those two don't need to be tied together.
Hey, quick, this is Divi. I just joined, so I just wanted to find out, just from my knowledge or anyone else who's new, how would you find out, like, what are the requirements or like the qualifications that one needs to have in order to get nominated for CPC, or even like, join CPC? Like, where are those? Are those on GitHub, or they're in a different separate space, or where is that like just located? If you could just say that.
They're in the OpenJS repository. under the Cross Project Council repo. And I think if you look at the charter and the governance documentation, it should have most of the information around that.
Yeah, for folks who are new, and I know that, you know, this is a common practice in Node as well, but we try to do as much as we can in GitHub and in public. So, you know, we try to document all these things as well as we can, and conversations and issues and PRs and things like that. So usually if you're looking for something, GitHub's probably the first place to go.
Yeah, I just pasted into the chat the CPC charter and the governance docs.
Did you?
I think you accidentally sent those to me.
Okay, you're right, I did. I don't know why sometimes that happens, but
yeah.
Where is
It
all
automatically
panelists? There we
selects
go.
the last person who posted a message.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah.
And you tap on it. So if you never tap on the notification and you instead just go to the chat thing, then it works fine.
Okay. Well, there I've just posted it to all now. So
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. All right. So so that's good. I just want to you know, to wrap up that last conversation. You know, we're always looking for more like new voices in the conversation, rich, diverse set of folks in the conversation. So if anyone in a project isn't able to do as much as they'd like, but they see someone else who might have an interest and hasn't done this kind of work, or whether they have or haven't, you know, definitely reach out to them. And if you want someone to help mentor, please reach out to me or what have you. I'd be happy to help onboard folks. And that's part of the open office hours too, is to get more folks involved. Cool. So
one last thing on that topic, which was started with the voting CPC membership. I think it's worth mentioning that the elections for the Node project have completed.
Both of them, Michael? I haven't seen any data from the committee.
So I think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, that like we were just waiting till this Monday, or was it later than that?
Yeah. No, I think that's accurate. Monday.
Okay, so basically, since it's been Monday, you know, Mateo and Joe have both been reconfirmed for the next year.
Hooray!
Yay! Says Mateo and Joe.
Yeah. No, well, thank you very much for stepping up to do that again for a year.
Yeah, sure. Guys. Thank you. I'm just making a note really quickly to send CPC voting reps nominations. Okay. All right, great. So now I have an actual alarm on my phone to post that stuff. Great. So next up, I added this, I think, last week just to make sure it was on everybody's radar. This is the issue 482 in the Cross Project Council repo. This is the WebHint project charter review. They merged it in as a draft, and you know, we're looking for folks on the CPC to give it a look over and you know, raise any issues or give it a thumb. So that's kind of an FYI issue there. If folks could take a look, that'd be great.
I assume there'll be a follow-on issue for the official vote, or?
That's a good point.
Because I read this kind of as, hey, like we'd like to get some preliminary comments, but I think as per the governance and charter and so forth, the CPC charter, the project charters need to be approved officially by the voting members.
And is that something we do in an issue or through email, or?
I think that would be just an issue in the project, like an issue in the CPC repo saying, you know, here's the proposed WebHint charter, and then, you know, the CPC members can chime in. I'd have to go back, but I think it's the voting members. Maybe it may just be all the members. So let's take a look.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe it was voting members, but we should maybe comment here in this issue that this should either, I guess, a new issue should be created. That makes it clear that this isn't a draft any longer, and that we should, you know, they're looking for approval.
Right, because here's the from the governance. Hopefully I got that to everybody this time. And I somehow voting didn't show up there, but basically it's voting. Yeah, no, it's combined in with the previous one. But anyway, voting members are responsible for approving the charter and updates. So.
Yeah, and I see Anton's on the call. Do you think, Anton, that the charter is ready for like official review rather than draft review per se, and we can open a new issue and just get thumbs on there and move it forward?
Okay, yeah, for us is like the finalized version. We are not planning on touching anything. We just merged it as a draft because we were pending on the approval of the CPC.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think it would make sense maybe to just create a new issue. We can close this one and just request official review for the official charter, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Or could you even use the same one?
I wondered, you mean the same issue?
Yeah, just comment in there and then like mention the CPC, please voting members, chime in.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be like an official vote or anything, but it needs to reach, voting member consensus.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And actually the governance may say specifically, let's see, charter. Approving charging proters, right? Okay, the voting sphere is correct. So it's approved when there's no outstanding objections, 2 or more approvals from voting CPC members. If it's, we've talked to the board and it's been open for 14 days. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, why don't we just update this one? Anton, if you wouldn't mind, maybe just commenting in there and saying this, we're looking for official review of this and approval of this of our charter, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Anton. Great. If any voting members on the call, when you get a moment, please review and add your thumb. Thank you. Great. So next up on the agenda is the OpenJS Collaboration Network. This is issue 474. I know Michael's done some work on this. You want to chime in, Michael?
Yep. Basically, there's a PR that's open. Let me find the PR and paste it into the chat. It's number 497. So basically, maybe it's 497. There we go. So, I think that's just waiting for more review, comments, input.
And what is this laying out for folks who don't know?
Yeah, this is basically the concept of collaboration spaces as kind of a formal thing within the foundation / CPC, where groups that want to come together and collaborate on areas that are important to the JavaScript ecosystem can make proposals, to form one of these collaboration spaces. The application is reviewed by the CPC, just like, applications for projects to join. And, once approved, the collaboration spaces, we've listed some resources which they can draw on from the foundation, like, a repository, using the Slack, mailing lists, and so forth. And kind of like projects, there's 2 levels outlined. One, which is kind of the first stage of, well, people are just coming together. We're going to try and start to ramp it up. And then one where it's like, yeah, this has been, running, showing results, has significant, reasonable number of people collaborating in an ongoing way. And it can kind of be promoted to another level where that group could take advantage of additional resources. And it's up to us as we go through what resources should be available at each level. But like, just as a starting point, I'd put the travel fund resources to be in the 2nd level versus the 1st level, as an example.
Yep.
And the goal, is for people who haven't read it yet, is to, provide a little bit more, formalize the concept of being able to bring together groups, have them collaborate under the foundation, and support that collaboration. We've done similar things in the Node.js project a few times, and there's always been questions like who can start one of them, how do we get repos, and so I think doing it at the foundation where we have a good documented process hopefully will make it easier and more obvious for how people can do it. And I'm hoping that, you know, encourage and support the collaboration that we want to have take place here.
Great. Cool. Well, thank you for all the work that you put into the PRs, and encourage folks to go take a look. All right, anything else on this issue, PR initiative? Nope. Great. All right, moving on. Next up is the Populate the Code of Conduct panel. I don't know if anybody has any updates for this. I know I see Matteo has an issue opened in Node.js admin. And it looks like we have some responses here, which is great. You want to comment on this at all, Matteo? Are you on the call?
Yeah, I can just. So we have involved our moderation team to see if they wanted to be involved in the OpenJS Code of Conduct panel, and there's been no objection for the last 2 days. So I think I can announce too that Jordan Arbank has been will be our representative. So I'll post some issues and invite him to the repo, but I think he's joining already this course, right? So yeah, I don't know if he's here. Hey, he's here. Hey, Jordan. Hey.
Yep. Hey, how's it going?
Congrats.
Congrats, Jordan.
Thank you.
I guess we should get Brian to add him to there was a mailing list, I think, set up for that team.
I think I'm an owner of both GitHub orgs already, so I think that's the only thing that would need to change.
Yeah, and I'll add you to the mailing list too.
Cool. Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
Cool. Great. Any other news on this front? Any other initiatives to bring folks in from other projects and other areas within the foundation and whatnot?
No, this is Rob. We're still doing some outreach, and again, encourage other projects. If you have a representative, please send them our way. I love how the Node project just did that. So we're open to volunteers and interested folks. So please reach out to Jory or Brian or me.
Did we have an email that went out to the projects a little while ago? Is that accurate?
I don't think so.
No?
I remember seeing something. I'm happy to represent Dojo on code of conduct stuff. I already do that for conferences, so I'm happy to help if that's useful.
Great, thank you.
This is Dylan, who this is.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Dylan.
Yeah.
No problem.
Jory, didn't you or Brian send out an email? I can't remember. Maybe I'm mixing it up with something else.
We did, and we sent out a call for folks to participate, and that's been a month ago at least.
Yeah, I wonder if we should follow up with that again and just kind of, you know, poke it and see if anybody else.
Well, I think my question might be, you know, do we want to, you know, do one last call and say, you know, all right, this is it, and you know, next year we'll poke again, or is this something we want to kind of populate in a rolling sort of way throughout the year? But my concern might be that spending too much time trying to just continue, like then it doesn't let us move forward, and that's what I would love us to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should move forward, and you know, similarly, perhaps to how we did the CPC originally. You know, take the people who are interested and get the thing rolling, and then kind of adapt from there.
I think certainly on the because there were, you know, representatives from non-impact and impact. I think sending one last email to the impact project saying, hey, you know, do you have somebody you want to nominate? It is listed as optional. And I think even throughout the year, if somebody said, okay, from this impact project, we found somebody who's interested, we should accept, you know, welcome them in. For the non-impact projects, if we've had volunteers, you know, as opposed to you know, looking or working harder to find other volunteers, we could just accept them as.
Yeah, I agree. Miles, did you unmute? Did you have something you wanted to add?
I was unaware that I was unmuted.
Oh, okay.
That could have gone way worse.
Great. All right. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe just kind of a wrap up email might be decent to send out to the projects, and then we should just get things rolling. Toby?
You're so fast. We have to be careful with that mute button now. No, on the code of conduct, I just had a chat with Coraline about the open pull request that Nina from the AMP project had filed against the contributor covenant, and sort of like to close the loop on that open issue. Her reaction, Caroline's reaction, was basically to say that she thought that the requested changes were too specific to be worthwhile upstreaming at this point, and that sort of like the kind of culture she was creating around the code of the contributor covenant was the idea that different communities would want to adapt the code of conduct to, like, you know, their preferences, and that this was fine, and that this should be the way to proceed going forward, and not really to treat it like a regular open source project where you want to upstream as much as you possibly can.
So I had a few thoughts about that. The first one is that I looked at the PR after that comment, and like some of them, at least one of the paragraphs seems like maybe it's project specific, but the rest of it seems very generic and like something in the full spirit of the code of conduct. So I'm surprised to hear that Coraline wouldn't want to upstream some of those things. But then the other comment is that regardless of of Coraline's intention to have it not be treated like a regular open source project, effectively then we're both being asked to inline the text and then also to float patches on top of it, which makes pulling down future updates to it very burdensome. Whereas if we didn't inline the text, then it would just be this link, but here's some changes. And if we upstreamed as much as we could, then floating the patches would be less burdensome. But like the situation that seems to be created right now is that where we have to just manually like reapply our patches every time we want to update to a later version. And those are going to grow if nothing's being upstreamed.
I agree. I do personally think that a smaller, more focused PR or a set of PRs would have had more chances of landing. And I also believe that Coraline doesn't have a lot of resources to work on this. And so, you know, de facto sort of limits the, you know, amount of like external, you know, well, I think she's just having a hard time to follow up with all of the requests around this, and basically wanted to to bring closure to this particular pull request. So I'm not suggesting that like something would be completely impossible. I'm just saying it's like the current pull request is not going to get anywhere.
I guess the question back to us though is we were trying to follow the model of like use upstream as opposed to going off in our own direction, because, and Jordan mentioned a few of the challenges of doing that.
He's right.
You know, do we think that, you know, we need to resubmit the PRs in a different form, or is it that our approach of trying to follow upstream is not practical nor recommended?
And is it like a limit of how much work she can put into it? Is it something that should be?
I think it ties to that, honestly, essentially.
I mean, should this sort of thing be moved to a foundation of sorts, and I'm not, you know, a Linux foundation or some other foundation, and that way the resources are there to maintain it?
I would think that's maybe off topic.
Sorry, did you say something, Jory?
I think it's an interesting question. I think it's off topic for.
Maybe something's covering your microphone. We can't make out what you're saying.
Off topic, I think, was the gist of what she was saying. Maybe we should take this.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Well, I mean, I think it's on topic in the sense that should we be depending on a code of conduct that doesn't have the resources to maintain itself? Like,
It's off topic for this issue, though.
Okay, maybe.
Maybe we need to open a new issue to discuss that.
Yeah.
Comment. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, sorry. What I wanted to do was just, I had this conversation. I wanted to bring it back to the CPC so that the CPC had an understanding of what the situation was. And I agree with Jory that we should then bring this conversation, the outcome of like this new information into a specific issue and have a conversation there.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's do that. All right, so yeah, we have like 8 minutes before we wanted to drop into 7 before we wanted to drop into a private session. So let's move on. Let's have maybe a new issue for this this challenge with the upstream and keep moving forward on the code of conduct panel. Toby, since you were on the mic, we've got 2 more issues that you were working on. Actually, it looks like Michael maybe moved forward on one of them. Did Toby?
Yes.
Great. You want to chime in?
I was able to update the one of those, the one around the
post-graduation
onboarding, post-graduation list. Sorry, and so that's fairly ready at this point. And I haven't been able to tackle the other one, which I will tackle this week.
Okay, great.
But I'm actually set up to work now on these issues and have like a functioning dev environment again, so I can upstream stuff, and it's a lot easier.
Excellent.
So it will happen.
I'm glad to hear. Cool. So moving beyond those 2 issues, we'll come back to them next week. Responsible security disclosures. It's the next issue. I see no update this week. I'm assuming Michael dropped that in there.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything new. I'll try and follow up with Marcin before next week to see what next steps are. Great.
And then the last issue on the agenda is chartering the standards team. Let's see here. Did Miles? Did you come back?
I think on that one we needed a clarification to the governance, which is there, and I think that also then clarified that it needed to be open for 14 days.
Okay.
So let's just see how long it has been open for. So it's been open for quite a while, and actually what I don't see, okay, where's the PR?
It says 496 in the CP. Oh wait, charter standards. Yeah.
496. Okay, it's not. Yeah, it's not actually in the first issue. Yeah, so where was that? When was that open? 7 days ago. So that'll still need to wait. I think it's got lots of approvals. I think my understanding is just waiting for the 14-day period to elapse and no objections, and then it can land.
Cool. Excellent. That is our last agenda item. Was there anything else that anyone wanted to discuss before we, in the last 4 minutes before we go into a private session?
I had a late breaking one. I posted an issue yesterday proposing that we maintain a transparent directory of maintainers. The issue is in the repository and I added the tag, but it was after the meeting was generated, so it didn't get picked up. But just the high level overview here is that looking at the way that we're maintaining our current list of who's who amongst the projects, we don't really have a, sorry, I had a call come in. We don't really have a single consistent way of doing that. Aside from this wonderful spreadsheet that Jory is maintaining, at the same time, we were also thinking it might be useful to have maintainer mailing lists. And I wrote a GitHub action that parses through a YAML file maintained in a GitHub repo. It creates a maintainer directory out of that, but then also syncs it against groups.io so that projects can maintain their own lists, becomes self-manageable, becomes transparent. Just wanted to suggest this as a potential solution since we've discussed a number of times. It'd be really nice to maintain this information someplace. It's in there to take a look, and I'd be happy to just walk anybody through the process if they'd like to see it. That's what I got.
I think it'd be great to have that being how we maintain our CPC lists as well, because as opposed to like and ask Brian to add somebody to a mailing list, it would be nice to be and PR into here.
That is one of the problems this was meant to solve, so that you're not dependent upon me as the gatekeeper for who's on what lists for the ones which should be transparently managed anyhow. So this absolutely addresses that, and this would be a great use case for it.
Great. Excellent. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. If you want to give it a shot, kick the tires with it, please just comment on the issue and I'll get you set up.
Great. That is issue 501, which I dropped into the chat. Cool. Anything else before we jump into a private session? No? All right, well then let's do it. I will stop the stream and I will kindly ask folks who are not members of the Cross Project Council to exit the room, and we'll go into a private session. Thanks everybody, I really appreciate it.
Bye. Stay safe, people.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep, stay safe.